to, let the bus driver know and introduce them or what. And they're like, oh, well, you just need to get this Z pass. And I'm like, what's the Z pass? And they're like, oh, it's just a identification thing. So they gave me a little paper, and I read it, and yep, it just slipped it in there. Oh, by the way, it's an RFID chip tag that you have to have. And so my daughter is not allowed to ride the bus because I went in and I said, I just don't feel that we want to participate in an RFID. Oh, by the way, it's an RFID chip tag that you have to have. And so my daughter is not allowed to ride the bus because I went in and I said, I just don't feel that we want to participate in an RFID. And they go on to tell me all the reasons why it's so great, blah, 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 blah. And, I mean, to everyone else, I guess these things make sense. But to me, they can count the children. They should know the children. They should know who's on the bus and who gets off the bus. There's not that many children on a bus, maybe 30, maybe more. But I'm sure that back when we were kids, our bus driver knew every single one of our names and knew if we got on the bus, knew if we got off the bus. And if they had a list, maybe they checked off our name as we came in. I don't know. But it was all easily done without this huge cost to schools who are supposedly underfunded. They sure spend a lot of money on RFID and vein scanning programs and data collection and all of this, stuff that is bad. And people don't see it. So after I read this story about this girl in, I think it's San Antonio, and she refused to wear the RFID. They had to wear it just to be in the school. And I'm just amazed that it didn't even make it through to be heard preliminary. They just killed it right at the beginning. And I am actually, well, I'm not surprised with the way that things are going, but I think that if we had a real justice system that cared about the Constitution and laws and rights to privacy and individual freedom and religious freedom, if we had any respect for that, this would definitely, well, it wouldn't happen in the first place, honestly. So I am just outraged because I feel for these people. I, as a parent of a child in a public school, am sick and tired of being treated like we don't know what's best for our children, especially when we're seeing these things plain as day, and we're trying to communicate with the staff and the administration. I get this attitude from them, and it's very hard for me to keep my composure and not be too defensive because I don't want to make trouble for my daughter or for myself. When you're dealing with your children, there's a very real threat that if they think you're a problem, they could target your children and take them from you. And that is a very scary thing to face, But we have to start standing up for ourselves as parents and standing up for our children's rights. We need to pay attention to what's going on in our schools. Because if you paid attention, I guarantee you would be horrified. If you really look at things from an objective point of view and not just taking them as they are offered to you. And I think no matter if it's just a little thing like this, because everybody's like, oh, it's not a big deal, blah, blah, blah. It's just this little thing. But things progress. Okay, if we haven't realized that, then we aren't at all even alive. They start out small and they become big. And I am just outraged that they were even putting numbers in as lunch program things. I'm like, why can't you use your name? You have a name. You are not a number. You are not an RFID scan. You are not a product or, a commodity or something to be tracked and monitored and put into a data system so that they can figure out better how to control you. That's all they're doing, is figuring out what works, what doesn't. Not for the better education of our children, but for the better implementation of their mind control and their agenda. And that's what they're doing. And they spend these exorbitant amounts of money. And I have great respect for the good teachers out there, but they're not all good. Okay? And the fact that they are right there in the middle of it and they don't see it, that means either they are incompetent or they are just unwilling to really do what is best for our children, and that is to speak out and say, no, I'm not going to teach the children this way. My children don't learn this way. They learn better this way. Or I think that this is too intrusive. Or why aren't we including our parents in the discussion of this? And, you know, and that's one more thing that I am very concerned about, is just the way they keep separating parents from their children at school. We can't have access to them because it's security reasons or whatever. And we're not invited into the classroom. I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but in the 2 schools that we've been to, I've had to fight to be part of the class. And then and then in the same breath, you go to a, school board meeting or some public meeting, and they always say how it would be so much better if the parents would only get involved. Well, when we try to, we're looked at as troublemakers, or they don't understand what our motivation is, and our motivation might be just to help our kids. I'm not being nosy when I'm asking what's in the curriculum. I just want to know so I can better supplement that at home. I'm not the enemy, and I'm not stupid. They make us seem like we're stupid. They make us feel like we're stupid. And they, by modeling that behavior, are teaching our children that we are stupid. And that anything that mom and dad try to teach you, like morals and values that contradict what we tell you for 8 hours a day, well, they're stupid and you can't listen to them. I mean, that's the message that you get. How many of us went to public school and how many of us thought our parents were complete idiots? But we had a little bit of respect for the teachers, even if we didn't like them. We thought they were somehow these great wealths of knowledge, supposedly, because we're also programmed that in every part of society. Teachers are put on this pedestal. They're never paid enough. They're overworked. They don't, get appreciated enough. Really? Because I checked what teachers are making these days. And the median salary in my state is $60 for a brand new teacher. That means there's some that are as low as $30, and there's some as high as $100 and something a year. That's their salary after you take out benefits. So then when you add in the benefits of paid vacation and 401k that they match and all of these other benefits and health insurance, it was up to, from that 60,000 or 59,000 up to almost 100,000. It was a good salary, I believe, for what they do. They work 8 hours a day. How many of us do? They get to work with children, which is awesome. And they get to play with them, and they get to see them grow. I think that's a privilege. It's not a burden. And if it's a burden, then maybe they shouldn't be teaching. And I think it's a good salary, a livable, and yet we always hear that they are so underappreciated, so underpaid. They have every benefit that you could want. And remember that this is a salary for 9 months of work. They are not working a full year's work. And if they participate in like the STEM program, which I also talk about in another video if you want to hear about it, or just look it up at whitehouse.gov. It's they can make a bonus of $20,000 a year just by participating in the STEM program. And the STEM program seems very nice and very good, but you have to look at it from another direction. They are controlling where we're going. They are limiting what we are thinking. And and it's not good. I mean, we see the results.